Kevin, my brother, how are you?
Good, man. Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. How's life up in San Francisco? It's been a while since I've been there. It's been almost 3 days.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, San Francisco's wild. I think it's it's the AI revolution, right? It's always funny. My daughters always joke, you can kind of see what's going on based on what's on the billboards. And so like, for a while it was big data and Snowflake was covering it. Now it's like all these AI companies trying to sell you AI something. And it's sort of, we liken it to, when you drive around Vegas and all you see is lawyer ads all the time. It never changes. Where when you drive around San Francisco, every 6 months to a year, when the new iPhone comes out, you get a bunch of Apple ads. But then after that subsides, it goes back to sort of whatever the topic du jour is. And right now it's definitely AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So context-wise, both of us worked together at Microsoft nearly 10 years ago, now 12 years ago almost.
Yeah.
You went after Microsoft to Instacart. That was a great journey for you. They went public. You did a little bit of Web3 stuff, and now you're on to AI. Walk us through what is the big aha for you from AI? In the last 3 years, 2 years, whatever you want to call it, give or take, a lot of folks have been on this AI changes everything, or folks have been in the yeah, this is the same old stuff. Where do you land on the spectrum and how are you using it?
Yeah, so I think the biggest takeaway for me is how accessible it is. So I mean, when we were at obviously Microsoft, there was a tons of machine learning and things that were like sort of like the brain of like Bing and the search engine, or even some of the stuff at Office 365. And then when you get to Instacart, a ton of stuff. We had all these PhDs doing operations research and building features and testing different sort of algorithms and things like that. But it was very manual, right? So you had
Yeah.
PhDs and super advanced sort of scientists, right? Data scientists building correlations and then testing those. And we would deploy models and train them and things of that nature pretty manually, right? Honestly. And so we had scripts and pipelines and things of that to like massage the data, to like get it in the right format and lay it out. And the people that could ask the questions and the people that could answer the questions were very sophisticated, right? Like they had been, had formal training, had been doing research in this space, and it was relatively small from the number of people that can access it. And today you fast forward and everybody who chooses to pick up the tools can use, ChatGPT or any kind of these LLMs, where now you no longer have to reformat your data. You can, it's helpful, but you can literally ask any question and give it any context, no matter how sparse, and get some answer back that's pretty good. And then the more context you give it, the more exacting you are with your questions, the answers get better. And so I think to me, that's been the big shift, is that the kind of
Mhm.
problems you can apply it to are much, much wider. And you can do it with any skill set. You can have technical background, be an engineer and ask it very detailed, build me code to go do this. Or you can take it from a very, business user where it's like, hey, give me a sensitivity analysis on this right out of some MBA, in order book. And it's like, great, what are the factors you want to look into? Here's the ranges, great. And it generates it. And then it gives you a pretty graph all in one shot. Right. And so I think to me, that's been the big change, is just the how accessible it is to get to these tools. And then now it's really just a race of who's going to apply them quicker to different businesses and different use cases.
About 5 years ago, 7 years ago, when you talked about the Instacart, it was more machine learning is what we were big at, right? Remember, you and I, when we were talking mostly when we were at Microsoft, we used to have a deep learning team. They
Mhm.
used to focus literally on a scientist, Microsoft research scientist sitting in a corner somewhere, right? Then it became more machine learning. It was learning with a lot of data. But now the LLMs have changed a lot of things dramatically, right? Let me ask you this question. On a day-to-day basis, how has your workflow set of things changed because of ChatGPT or Perplexity or any of the others, Claude, whatever you use? How has it changed? Or do you use specialized tools on top of these, like wrappers or something?
Yeah, good question. So I think personally, I use it every day. And I think, if I zoom out and sort of answer that question from the high level, I first think of like, what's the question I'm asking? If it's a question about something that's happened in, very recently in the last hour, day, month, I use Grok. It has the most up-to-date sort of Twitter feed data, and that gives me answers that I can ask about things that are very, very near term and relevant. If it's between like 1 month and 1 year, I find Perplexity is pretty good at it, bringing together like
Yeah.
recent but sort of like somewhat documented opinions. And then if it's something that's like a year old, meaning that like, it's math or science or something that's like a formula or applying it, I still find that ChatGPT is the best for like the broader reasoning. And then recently in the last 2 weeks, I've been addicted to Manus just because I'm able to like feed it really, really wide prompts and get it to do a lot of work where it'll like, plan me 11-day vacation and it'll go work on it for 4 or 5 hours, right? If you ask deep enough questions. And I think so that's like the quick arc. And then obviously in the businesses, we're using a bunch of these underneath. So for programming, Claude still seems to be preferred from what people are, 3.5 or 3.7. And then I use Gemini and email sometimes, to do summarize this email in Gmail just because it's there and it's just easier to type it into a chat box than it is to like copy the email into ChatGPT. Um, but yeah, I pay for the pro subscriptions on all of them. Sort of like, again, my view is like it's just, these tools as a function of the output that they can do is so worth it. Yeah, I kind of use them, a mix of them on a day-to-day basis. But I would say the biggest sort of, you know, most of my memory or context lives still in ChatGPT Pro with folders and things of that nature where I can go back to them over and over. But I'm finding for like the more recent temporal stuff, Grok's sort of, I would say winning out. And then, like I said, Perplexity, I would say, kind of bounces between the two in terms of how I use it.
Let me say, if I had to draw an arc, and the arc is, does it make you more productive, hence you're spending less time at work? Or does it make you so much more productive you can get a lot more time, a lot more stuff done, but you're ending up spending a lot more time as well? What is at the high level? A lot of people that I talk to want to really be able to manage. So if you look at a startup, most of the people that work in the startups find that it's never a 10-hour day, it's a 12-hour day, keeps going on and on. But now with AI, they're trying their best to, okay, I need to get these things done, but can I do it in 10 hours? And can I get my life back, so to speak? Or big company folks. I mean, I've talked to a lot of Amazon people that are like, we can't use all of the other stuff. We can use only our internal stuff, but they're still trying to figure out how they can get all the stuff done in the amount of time. Oh, how do you use it? Are you more like, oh, this makes me a superhuman? Or are you more, I want to be able to get my life, so I want to do whatever I want to do in 8 hours?
Yeah, I mean, my honest answer is I do more. I think I aspire to be more balanced. I think I'm pretty religious about my sleep. So like I go to bed at 8 p.m. and I wake up at 5 a.m. And so that's kind of bookends the day. But inside of that, I liken it to back in the, Tim Ferriss days of the 4 Hour Work Week, which was like an incredible, like transformational book for me. And the way I think about it is 4 Hour Work Week sounds great. I'm like, I'm going to do 10 of those every week and then work on a bunch of different projects and keep a bunch of things spinning. And I think the AI thing has given me that where, at any one point, like if I go into my browser right now, there's 6 Manus tabs open and 4 ChatGPT tabs. 3 of them are running right now. Like, and I started these like before the call started. And when I got back, I'll feed them and I constantly bounce between them. And so to me, it's definitely getting more. And then one of the things that I do a lot, I do have a um, team of admins, and then also a team, the engineering teams at the companies. I will build a discussion with chat, ask it a bunch, and then I'll grab that and share that chat and say, hey, here's what I've done here, and literally just give them what the output is. And they'll
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
have like not only the output, but also my thinking of how I got there. And then they're able to pick up where I left off and ask specific questions, refine it, go down the path. And so I use it as a tool almost to delegate these days, and to delegate a much more rich context of my thinking. And so to me,
That
I
is
think
a
that's pretty
fascinating use
impactful.
case.
Yeah,
Let's drill into that a little bit more. Walk us through an example. For example, let's not take a consumerish example like I'm going on vacation. Walk me through an example, maybe a research that you're doing on something, right?
yeah,
How do you use your admins along with chat? Because now you don't just have people that can do stuff for you. You actually have the technology helping the people do a much better job, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
So
walk me through an example of that.
yeah, for sure. So I think I'll give a somewhat one around podcasts and sort of content like marketing, right?
Yeah,
And say,
yeah,
hey, we want to do more content, and we want to take how do we prep for like this week's podcast,
yeah.
right? And so I can describe how I'm going to prep for it and put that into chat and have that come back with a format. Say, no, I don't like this format. I want that format. Come this way. And then I get the format done the way I like it. And then I have, like, for example, the output for tomorrow's podcast recording. And I literally send that whole chat to my admin and say, hey, go run this for the next 5 scheduled podcasts and then give it back to me to review. Right. Or it's like, hey, I think the newsletter is going well, but I want to really write more about AI. and I'll go and feed it all of my newsletters. In Manus, for example, it pulls all the newsletters in, reads all the newsletters, and then give me 10 topics that you think my audience would like based on, what the other stuff I've written about and what current trends are. And oh, for current trends, go fetch that from Grok. And so it'll grab the last 7 days of trends from AI from Grok, feed that in, and it'll come back with 15 topics. I'll say, I really like these five. Draft me a summary paragraph for these five. Then I'll give these to my admin and say, hey, go run some of these through a second level of LLM questioning and come back with five personal questions for me to basically extract stories for me about these topics. I will voice note those back to her. So she gives me that context and those questions. I voice note that back to her. Then she goes and runs those, produces the drafts that come back, topical and outlines. And I say, oh, those are good ones. Now let's go write those. Right. So that's like a very
Yeah,
complex workflow. And then say, okay, now that we've got that out, let's go build next week's content. What's the menu and the calendar for the next week of content? It rips that out. And so I think the cool thing about these LLMs is the more questions and the more personal data you give it and the more context you give it, the better the answers get. And what I've found is that's similar to delegation, right? Where I go and ask a very specific question, go figure that out. It goes and executes that. The admins or my operations people can kind of like feed that beast, ask it
yeah,
questions. They kind of know what we want. Oh, there's this other thing. Let's go give it a transcript from this previous podcast that me and you did. And that's going to be cool. We can weave that into a future newsletter. Let's go get a great summary from that of three of the high points that we discussed. Great. We can lay that together. So I think that's like a content sort of use case. I would say another one that's more strategic wise on the business
yeah,
is we found a really good customer for one of our AI tools. So we're doing this AI voice, and so in that case, we have a really strong customer. And I said, hey, take this customer profile, go find, and they use two different specific CRM tools that we've integrated with. And so I say, hey, based on these two CRM tools, go find other customers that look like this customer that also
yeah, yeah,
use these CRMs. And so it'll go find case studies, public information, whatever, come back with a hit list of 25 companies that it thinks it's a good fit. I say, okay, great. Now I give that to my admin and say, now go use AI and research tools to go find contact information and additional refined information on that. And then I'll say, hey, here's the three outreach strategies I want to use. I want to use personal email for me, LinkedIn requests for me, and social media requests for me. And they take those three things and then they go and run that play again. So I can kind of like build the strategy and then I can kind of arms and legs part of that to AI, but also part of that to humans, which can go and ask intelligent questions, also have
yeah,
access to
yeah.
that. And so it's like, hey, go export my contacts, go export this. So now they can mix in both personal context, but also be able to do that in a more rich format. And then in one case, I was like, hey, go through my email and see who's met. So they literally ran Gemini queries in my email to find, similar people back to those companies or one level connections back where I could, sort of have those warm outreach, in a more, templated way. So again, there's tools for this and different layers, but they can't get to the level of speed that I can do with it, nor the level of depth. Because a lot of these tools can go one level deep. They just can't go to that second level of actually executing on it.
The interesting part to me while you were talking me through this is even though you use the tools, you still have admin to be able to help you, a human helping you so doing some other things, right? So that's the interesting part. I do hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, I no longer need an admin because now what the admin used to do, I get it done with the tool myself." That doesn't seem to be the case in your case. I'm curious about that a little bit more now. Tell us. Obviously, you need people to do work,
Yeah.
but that workflow, does it involve you having somebody do a certain set of things that a technology can't do, or you don't want the technology to do?
So I'll give you three specific examples from today. One of the developers at one of my portfolio companies needs access to Cloudflare.
Yeah.
And so sent an email and said, hey, I need super admin access to Cloudflare to do these three things. Like the, to get AI to go do that, to go log in with my super user permission in Cloudflare, find the right person, invite them, and then do the two-factor to get them in. Like it's very tricky for AI to do that, but I never had to touch that. It came in, my admin saw it, they sort of figured it out and then knew what access to go get, all taken care of. Another one came in. I sold a house late last year, and an email got forwarded to me from a realtor that said, "Hey, one of the bills for one of the vendors that was like $1,000 bill or something that came through, didn't get covered in escrow. We need to pay that. Again, I didn't touch it. Admins grabbed it, figured out, found the payment information. Hey, that's which account does that go to? Use this credit card and go pay it, and then drafted an email for me to send. So all I had to do was click send and say, yeah, it's been paid, taken care of. Here's the receipt. Right?
Yeah,
So
no, that
again,
makes a lot of sense.
so like again, they know, and the reason that they're able to figure that out is because we've trained. I have a document, a user guide essentially that's trained on all the things that I do, which accounts, which companies. We have 11 different companies we're running right now, and how do all those companies map? What are the bank accounts to them? Each of them has their own. What are my personal credit cards? What are they? And so to be able to map that together and say for this thing and that thing, this is going to be the right card. That's not a business expense, very personal expense. Another thing comes in. One of the new employees from one of our companies wanted to expense their a new LLM subscription, and they're like, "Hey, can I expense this?" They have a rule that says, again, I can they can ask the sort of LLM, "Hey, is this expensible?" Oh, it's less than $200. That for this
Do it.
company, that's fine, and it's approved, and they auto approve it. They add that person to the expense system, invite them, and then have them expense the thing, and then they approve it, all without me touching it, right? So again, LLMs can do some parts of that, but it can't operate it. And so we're literally created. I've created a layer, so they work 24 hours a day. So we have three admins that work 8-hour shifts, so 4 a.m. to 1 p.m., noon to 9 p.m., 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. The other side, and so basically cover all the entire sort of coverage with a little overlap because they have an hour break in the middle. And that's able to have this, and they all have shared sort of understanding of what's going on, able to do follow the sun because we have teams that are remote. We have people that work different hours. Like I wake up at 5 a.m., but I go to bed at 8 p.m. Obviously, there's still engineers that work past that. How do they get that? And so to me, the LLMs help come up with more strategy and help come up with better ideas. But then having sort of people that are aware of that are much much more impactful than like what I would think of when we were in Microsoft. We had admins and team members that could do things, but they were very focused on like sort of managing meetings and managing things around work. They couldn't do personal stuff. Like if they wouldn't even know that I got an email from my real estate agent asking to pay this bill from 5 months ago, right? And so that would
And they
just
wouldn't
pile up
care.
for me. So to me, the fact that they can balance this personal life, work life, business life, portfolio life all in one has given this sort of perfect day where I can kind of go through my day and only deal with things that are uniquely mine, right? They can't do this call with you, they can't do a podcast. Um, but for sure, they're going to take the transcript of this, extract the details of it, help me with, other things that I said that I should have followed up on, remembered, and things of that nature that we can then layer in. And so we have a really deep, rich Asana board that at any one time's got about 400 tasks on it that are spread out over the next year. 150 of those are recurring. Everything from like change the air filter to change the filter in my fridge to book a veterinary appointment for my dog 6 months from now. All those things are tracked, and everything that comes up gets put. Is it recurring? Is it one time? How do we do it? And what's the SOP for it? And all of that
Fascinating.
is refined with AI. Because if it's like if the request is missing context, the next person can't handle it. What if it shows up on a different person's shift?
Yeah,
What if I
yeah.
have to remember, like, wait, when was the last time I was at the dentist? I want to go every 3 months because I like to, keep my teeth super clean and, I drink too much coffee. Like, hey, when is that? Oh, but it's only when I'm in town because I'm not traveling. You have to move it between things and being able to reschedule it. So all these kind of things fall into this, what I call perfect day, where it's like, how do I have a perfect day? It's like understanding context of all of my inboxes, being able to consolidate that to what are the actual actionable tasks and what are the tasks only I can do, right? For example, before this meeting, I think my admin sent you a note saying, hey, is there a recording? What thing is it on? So that I show up, my last meeting ends. It's like, oh, it's going to be on Zoom. It's going to be recorded. I don't need to worry about it. It's locked and loaded.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That it's what you've done is you've really taken the 4-hour work week to heart, and you are implementing it so that it captures, as you said, the single inbox model,
Yeah.
right? Personal life, work life, professional life, investment life, everything in one place. So there's no lack of thread resolution, right? That becomes a big challenge for me, I think, and for a lot of other people as well, I'm sure, right? Because there's a lot of personal stuff that just never gets done
Yeah. And it's in the
or
way.
just loses thread.
And it makes you a worse business person because it's like, well, this is like a personal thing, not a business thing. But you're like, my business impact is directly related to the number of distractions in my real life. Like, oh, my house cleaner didn't get paid. Why? Oh, because the credit card changed on that thing that was a recurring. Okay, well, somebody has to go update that credit card. Well, yes, I can go do it, but if that's delayed, then that's going to be another email, and I get a follow-up email in my personal inbox. And how does that impact work? Well, it's taking away, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, it's taking away time that I could have been focused on something else. And so for me, it's I am one inbox, and I want my support structure, both my kind of AI world, but also the team that works with me to be able to support that in a way that makes me the most productive and efficient and just increases that efficiency over time because that memory becomes stronger and stronger. And LLMs allow us to access that and store that in a way that wasn't possible, even a year ago.
That's awesome, man. I like the story. I like the story a lot. I think the fact that you've been able to get from a point where you had so many threads going. I remember when we were grabbing lunch, I think it was the Twitter office.
Yeah.
When I came over to the Twitter office, you're obviously almost always I've known you. You've had multiple threads or multiple balls on the swinging, you're spinning multiple plates, whatever it is, right? Whatever that analogy is, you're doing lots of different things. But now it seems as if you've been able to use AI and a combination of the people that help support you to a point where it is actually managed in a single place in a consistent way. So there's no issue with you being able to get suddenly distracted because something happened.
Yeah.
I would imagine, does this apply even to how your kids and family tries to use these folks, or is this only you and they do their own thing?
No, so I think they each like so it's funny because my youngest daughter's 15, so she's in a freshman in high school. And so it's a progressive high school, and so they're pretty, open with AI technology. It's obviously in the Bay Area, so like there's a lot of like awareness of that. A lot of the, kids
Yeah,
are,
yeah,
work in the space or their parents do or something. And so but like there's their use case there is very different. So it's like, hey, how does it help you do it? It's a better encyclopedia, I think, for them. They
learning. It's
know
a
like
learning solution more than anything
yeah,
else.
and they know that they can use it to write their homework and they know they can use it for things, but they're like actually self-aware enough to like realize that that's not helping them, right? Like, because you're not going to become a good tastemaker or evaluator if you haven't kind of done the work a little bit. My wife, on the other hand, was a bit more resistant. She was like, "Oh, you constantly talk about in my house, like we just call it chat. Hey, chat this, chat short for chat GPT. Did you ask chat? Hey, don't ask me that question. You should have asked chat. Like, I don't know, go ask chat." Um, and so it became a meme in my house for a minute. And then my wife loves it now. Like we use it for medical stuff, we use it for planning stuff, vacation,
Yeah, yeah,
so many different things where a lot of times the discussion evolves to like the discussion summary of what we had with chat. She's like, hey, I talked to chat in these three things. We should try this thing. And I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Yeah, I think that's true. I ran this other chat and saw this thing. And so it's almost like there's this amorphous sort of human or like all-knowing being that's in our house that we're able to check in with. And I liken it to like Alexa. Back in the early days of Alexa, people would say like, "Oh, Alexa this." And it was kind of like it would sort of work for some things, but it would be like, not really useful. Like, "Oh, play this song or play this music or what's the weather today or what's the news today?" And now you can ask it questions like, "Hey, do you think it's going to be possible on our European trip to visit Edinburgh in addition to being able to make it down into The Hague in time to see my brother's baby that's being born?" And it has enough context because it has sharing between
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
context to actually answer that question reasonably well. And so I think from the family perspective, I think everybody uses it differently. Obviously, like I'm a nerd and addicted, but I liken it to the cell phone. Like, we all have an iPhone in our house.
Right. But we
The
use
phone screen of
differently.
my iPhone and my wife's and my daughter's are all very different. And how we use it and what our screen time looks like is all very different, although we use them all a lot, right? And so I think that people just need to realize it's a tool. And I think the analogy that's worked the best for me recently is the construction analogy. Is like if you go to a construction site and you become like a journeyman contractor, you
Yeah,
could walk on the site and say, I'm only using a hammer and a handsaw, and that's how I'm going to
yeah.
build a house. And you would be
And you can
successful.
do that.
Yeah, you could definitely do it. But if you come onto the site and say, I'm willing to learn the nail gun, I'm willing to learn the chop saw, the electric saw, all these other tools, you're going to be a better, sort of contributor to that business, and you're going to be a better contractor over time. You're going to be a better construction person. And so I think it'd be foolish to not use the tools, just like it was foolish to not learn the internet, the cell phone, or social media over the last 2 decades.
Yeah. Awesome, Kevin. This was a great discussion. I'm glad we had it. I'm glad we connected after so long.
100%.
Um, you're always among the people that I love to chat with. Just hang out, talk. learned a few things as we go along. I'll keep you posted. I'll definitely let you know when I post this and I go forward with it.